Okay, so here goes some thoughts on the economy, the current situation versus the ideology. I don't know if that's a good word, but anyway, an economy in a sovereign republic or a national republic, independent republic. The biggest problem really is, we use foreign money lent to us at interest. There was a guy being interviewed from the Wellington Council today talking about how the councils are short on money because of COVID. Auckland have said the same, they're short on money. You want to see all the roadworks they're doing around the place. It's good to keep people employed, but they're short on money and they're always talking about how they've got to borrow more money and that money's got to be paid back. Well, that's just a slave system. It's like listening to children in a nursery, playing with toys, and they're scared that mummy and daddy are going to come back and tell them off. It's no different. They're just children. They're just adolescent children, in management positions these days. None of them have got any true sense of leadership to come out and say, the money we borrow is counterfeit. It's lent to us at interest. It's invented on a computer screen and lent to us at interest, and we better pay it back. Why can't you invent your own money? You idiots. There's not one leadership bone in the body of any of you. You're weak, pathetic jellyfish. The children of Saturn. That's what it is. They don't have a bone in their body. Borrowing counterfeit money at interest is the biggest problem, but followed by that, this whole neoliberal global economic con, sold to us on the basis of trickle-down economics. The second biggest problem is foreign ownership. On the cover of this video, I'm going to use a photo of the timber yard next to Picton, that bay, that's Shakespeare Bay, I think it's called, which is used as a timber yard next to Picton, with all of the South Island wood supplies parked up there, ready for export to China, where it gets processed. We shut down our timber mills, as we're instructed, as these spineless leaders are instructed to do, to make us more dependent on the Chinese economy. It doesn't make economic sense at all. We ship timber all the way over to China to get it milled, and then we ship back anything that we need, presumably. I guess we probably keep the stuff we need. But I'll put a photo of that mill, of that bay, because that timber is enough economic value, especially if you rebuild the local processing plants, timber mills. There's enough economic value for export in that yard to clothe, shelter, and feed every South Islander. And that's just one industry. Then you've got your horticulture. We don't do agriculture because that is the diet of Satan and his minions, flesh-eating demons. Apples, cherries, all that South Island produce. There's honey, there's wool, there's lime, there's phosphate, I believe, there's coal, massive amounts of coal, and I've shut down all that mining so that we are simply a crippled economy dependent on this counterfeit foreign money borrowing and international trade agreements which are purely designed to enslave us all. So in a sovereign republic, one of the biggest things you would guard against, in fact outlaw, is foreign ownership. Because these industries currently in New Zealand, they're not being used for the good of New Zealanders. All resources in a republic are there primarily for the benefit of the people in the republic, not for foreign owners and not for their teams of overpaid CEOs, accountants and lawyers. So the only way to look at any industry is this is for the benefit of the people, and in fact that is very much like the old Maori law and how they ran their communities. Not that corporatised iwi fraud with their lawyers and accountants and the greedy drug addicts at the top of it. Same as the European system, isn't it? It's just changed, the word is change the name and give it a nice cultural ring to it. No foreign ownership. So any industry like timber, you look at it and you say, right, what's the total economic benefit? How can we get the most economic benefit? And there's no foreign ownership. So all profits, and same with the banking industry, all profits, etc., go into back into the domestic economy. Go back into the economy. They do not get shipped off overseas. Under the current model, what they do is we have these overseas investment funds, overseas trusts, overseas ownership, foreign ownership, and they export the billions in profits offshore. So we're just constantly getting robbed, which means that we're constantly on the treadmill of labour. All the Kiwis are is just labour, a labour supply for these foreign owners to keep their keep their income coming in. Then underneath them, they hire they have a bunch of shareholders and top corporate lawyers and corporate accountants and tax specialists who are overpaid simply to help them rob the rest of us. And the net result is holiday homes and apartments, flash apartments and beautiful boats all the way around New Zealand, which is starting to look more like Monaco, which are empty, just sitting empty. I mean, this is just one bay in Auckland Harbour. If you go over there, you get the main marina, and there's just thousands of boats just sitting there, beautiful, multi-million dollar boats, $500,000 boats just sitting there all day, 95% of the time, 98% of the time, and no one's using them because the rich listers, the foreign owners, they live overseas. They've got a boat and a flash apartment in every city. They've got one in Sydney, they've got one in Auckland, they've got one in Hong Kong, they've got one in Singapore, they've got one in the Pacific Islands, one in Georgetown, and an apartment in New York, and that's the foreign ownership model. And that's 80% of our resources are being robbed from us by the borrowing of counterfeit money from overseas, which we've got to pay back in interest, and then the foreign corporate model, where just a small handful of greedy, and in fact also greedy New Zealand families such as Tully's would be an example, and these cartels, like Bailey's, which I think is right behind me. There goes KPMG, the big accounting firms, and Microsoft, obviously the IT sector, they're robbing us blind. They don't pay any tax. They pay licensing fees overseas. They don't pay any tax. So we just slave labour in our own nations. And that's the culmination of this neoliberal global corporate agenda. All it is robbery. 80% of our resources, I'll put a photo of that timber yard, but it's the same for any other industry in New Zealand. Even kiwi fruit, you've got good orchardists, good landowners who work hard, they try to pay their tax, the Kiwis, but they're roped in, and they have to join these collectives, corporate collectives, which dictate to them what they do on their farms and what price they get for their goods. Fonterra is another example. That's just pure communism. But we're not factoring in, only idiots pull cows' tits, sexually abuse cows for a living, so that land can be converted. But the borrowing of counterfeit money from overseas at interest, and then the foreign corporate model, which is allowing corporate ownership of our resources, that has to be outlawed. And then we don't get the situation where, if you go look at the marina in Auckland, go look at the one in Nelson, around the whole country, you'll see this. Wellington, Picton, just this massive concentration of wealth, and there's no one home. There's no one in these apartments. You come here at night time, only 20% of these apartments are occupied. And these boats just sit here all day long, same in every harbour around New Zealand, multi-millions of dollars worth, billions of dollars worth of luxury yachts. No one uses them because they're not here. It's winter in New Zealand, so there's no one here. They just fly in summer for about 2 weeks of the year to use these resources. That's the net effect. That's the evidence of the inequality. The government issue statements on it, issue statistics on it. All you got to do is go look at your local wharf, around the country, and you just see this concentration of wealth. There's no one using it. 98% of the time, 95% of the time, it's not even used. It's just billions of dollars sitting there because they have robbed 80 to 90% of the value of our economy, and they continue to do so. And all Kiwis we provide all the labour, and then the 10, 20% of the net economic value is distributed amongst the slaves. And that's ongoing until the foreign corporate ownership model and the foreign banking model are abolished for the criminal, leeching, parasitic children of Satan, Satan-worshipping, Baal worship freaks that they are. These lawyers, these accountants, these shareholders, these trustees, these foreign ownership models, this foreign ownership model, absolute theft. That's all it is. The resources of a nation are there first and foremost for the benefit of the people of the nation, and anyone who suggests otherwise is a criminal thief. How could you possibly suggest that the resources of a nation are for anything else except for the benefit of the people that live in that area, especially, and the nation as a whole? And anyone that tells you otherwise is a frigging criminal. A liar and a criminal. And that's all you idiots in the media. They're all children of Satan. Most of them have got red hair, if you haven't noticed. And they've all got these shape-shifting they're all like John Campbell, hiding behind his little reading. They all put those black reading glasses on as they get more and more hooked on the, let's just say, lifestyles. Meth is obviously the drug of choice, isn't it, folks? I mean, God, the whole nation's awash in it. We've got container loads, bales of the stuff washing up on beaches, and no one in the police, navy, government, media seem to know how it gets there. What does that tell you? And you just look at them. They're off their faces all day long. They're highly organised thieves, I'll give them that. but it's theft. Anyone that suggests that the resources of a nation should not be there for the benefit of the people is a thief that should spend time in a prison camp probably, unless they want to denounce and come clean and offer back to the people what is rightfully theirs. Am I starting to sound like a Maori? Not iwi. Iwi's a total fraud. Look what they've done. Haven't done anything. Just stolen. I want it, someone said the other day. Iwi. Is that under 10 minutes? We'll leave it there. What's it going to be called? I'm going to photo of the timber yard, economics of an independent republic.